The libs in Texas who are trying to flee the state to avoid a quorum voting on the redistricting in Texas, we've all heard that story. They decided, hey, we're going to go back to Texas. Well, in response to that, Governor King Dictator Gavin Newsom, which I think is his official title, but I'm kind of fuzzy on that. I'm not entirely sure. Governor King Dictator Gavin Newsom said, we are going to respond by gerrymandering California even more than it's already gerrymandered. Here's the problem. He has to go through a bunch of different hoops and hurdles in order to do that. Unlike Texas, where it's controlled by the legislature, California redistricting is not. California actually is districted by an independent third-party redistricting consensus group. Now, is it slanted because everything in California is slanted? Yes, but it's made up of 5 conservatives, 5 liberals, and 4 no party preference listed people. 14 members in all make up the districting board. Now you can say, well, liberals outnumber conservatives in California 2-1. Well, then why are congressional representatives outnumbering in California by libs 5-1? All that is to say this. It's already extremely slanted. What Governor Newsom, dictator tyrant Gavin Newsom, is trying to do is attempting to make it more slanted, and how he does that is take the power away from the independent group that decides redistricting and moves it back to the legislature. In order to do that, he has to have a vote in the state, which he's trying to put on a ballot initiative coming up in this fall. Now, the good news is that Californians overwhelmingly support the independent redistricting body by 64% to 36%. Independents that aren't registered to either party support it by a stunning 72%. The bottom line is, Governor Dictator Tyrant Gavin Newsom is fighting an uphill battle, but what he really wants is more power to redistrict in a way that makes him look better for the 2028 presidential run. Here to comment on that and so much more is conservative Aunt Anthony Raimondi and Hannah Faulkner, host of the Hannah Faulkner Show. Guys, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks so much for having us.
Hannah, I want to start with you here. This is kind of convoluted, kind of nuanced, but this really is going to end up being an election battle to see whether or not the governor of the state and the legislative branch in the state of California gets more power away from a so-called independent body. Now, we can quibble about the independence of that body, but do you think voters in California are going to go for giving Governor Dictator Tyrant Gavin Newsom more power?
You know, I love your nickname for him, and I think that it is confirmed that he is a tyrannical dictator over California. And I think it's really important what we watch that happens in California, because it does set the precedent for all of these conservative states. I mean, even here in Tennessee, a lot of stuff that happens in California, you see almost the same exact pieces of legislation 2, 3, 4, 5 years later here in the state of Tennessee and in other conservative states. I don't think the voters are going to support what Governor Gavin Newsom is doing, or tyrannical dictator Governor Gavin Newsom in California, because he does just want more control. And I think the most important piece that we should be taking from all of this is they love to create more chaos and conflict over almost non-issues, things that most voters weren't even thinking of to begin with, to almost leave the voters confused on who is the right choice leading into the next election. So I think it's very strategic what a lot of these leftists are doing, creating a lot of chaos out of nothing to leave people ultimately confused in the end.
Hannah, I appreciate you using the correct terminology for his official title. Again, I think that's what it is, but I can't be sure. I'll have to look it up at some point. And I think this is really interesting. The redistricting thing, especially in blue states, is fascinating to me, because what they're assuming is everyone will continue to vote the same way. What I think, if I'm putting the shoe on the entirely other foot, is what they're going to do is they're going to take safe districts and split them up so they can win back those other districts that they don't have. And in turn, and this even could happen in Texas, they're going to lose what they thought were safe districts. Do you think redistricting as a response in the short term outweighs the benefit that the other side might get in the long term? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's not going to work in their favor, if that's the question. I really don't think it is. I mean, we see things like this happen in places like Chicago, right? I'm originally from Illinois. This happens in Illinois. If you really break down Illinois, it's red. It's mostly red. But once you get to those city limits, and people can say, oh, population density, they can use all these different, but it's all of your different districts and aldermans and the money that they get from one guy and pass it over to the other, and then they hold these seats for a long time and then just assume that people are going to vote liberal. I have to say, the tongue twister of the name for Gavin Newsom, for me, I love that. I can't spit it out, but I agree with that. And also, we have to remember, guys, Gavin with the good hair, he's broken right now. Donald Trump broke him. And we have Spencer Pratt, boots on the ground, literally trolling Gavin Newsom outside of his once beautiful home in the Palisades in rubble. And it says Heidiwood on the back. And he's doing podcasts every day. And he's saying that Gavin Newsom will never be the president. This is great to me. I love to see people who were in Hollywood or who were in reality TV trying to take their state back and call out exactly what Trump said in his first term was the problem with wildfires in California. It is so nice to see. I love it.
I just want to also mention that then Mayor Gavin Newsom cheated on his wife with his best friend's wife, who was working for him in the mayor's office at the time. Now, commenters might say that's an unfair statement to make, and it is. I just wanted to remind people of that.